you know, it's always really daunting going on at the end, because it's like I've sat here and I've listened to some amazing speakers, and I'm like, okay, one's the imposter, I've been the imposter, the other one's from the East End, the other one told me it was rubbish. Kind of wraps it up for me. But what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to try and tell you my story and impart some tips along the way. So where I'm going to start that story, it's really important for you to understand that the stuff that I kind of open up with, I'm not using my background as kind of currency as a story, because I won't go back and change a thing. Because it's those very things that kind of made me who I am. In which case, why do I want to raise any debt? So I'll tell you the story of a young girl and who grew up in quite a socially and economically challenged area in the East End of London. So the daughter of a single parent. Where I come from, obviously by now you realise that little girl's me, you know, the measure of success was kind of scraping through school, perhaps getting a job in a shop, or better still, getting pregnant quite early and getting on the housing ladder via a council flat, or so I was told. Where we used to live, I was on the 18th floor of a tower block window. Sorry, I used to look out the window, and what I could see was the bright lights of the city. And I used to look out that window, and I used to look at the tallest building that I could see, which was NatWest Tower. Bear in mind, it wasn't kind of built up there. And it used to stand there in its kind of aura and its status. And I used to say to my mum, I'm going to work there one day, and things will be different, and I'll buy you a bungalow. And the reason being on the 18th floor, where lifts were always broke. By the time I got downstairs, the ice cream van was gone, so there was kind of a bit of a method to the madness. We had a really strong work ethic from a very young age, because we had to make ends meet. And again, no sob story, I'd kind of go to school, we'd clean large betting offices by night to about 11 o'clock. So by the time I got to school, A, I wasn't really that interested in it, but B, I was too tired. So by 14, I think my English teacher gave me lots of words of encouragement, like, you'll be good for carrying sardines in a factory, Vanessa, and various other things. And I started to realise, even when I got to kind of 16, the amount of people that can kind of crush your dreams or what you may go on to become. Now what I did have is two very, very strong role models. You know, I had a mother that told me I could do anything if I just put my mind to it. I had a grandmother who ran her own business, and she kind of cut my mum off for marrying what she deemed as the local scally. I say I come from quite a mixed heritage. On one side they're Jewish, on the other side they're pearly kings and queens. You can't get any more mixed up in them. So basically, you know, I had this massive strong work ethic, and a grandmother that said, she used to quote, it's a Jonathan Winters quote, and it's, your boat doesn't come in, you have to sail out to it. And as she got a lot older and she was unable to kind of construct sentences, it used to kind of come out in lots of different ways. So, get in your boat, don't sit on shore. Towards the end, it was mind the fish. And I kind of knew what she meant. And the mind the fish was the kind of more poignant part, because there are people that will snap at you and tell you what you're capable of. And kind of throughout my career, if I had listened to some of them, I never would have gone on to kind of do some of the things that I've done. So that girl left school at 16 with a badly crafted set of GCSE results and got on the bus with 15p and a bit of ambition. And why I did that is not only did I see the city from my bedroom window, but the film Wall Street had just come out. And although I never aspired to Gordon Gekko, I liked that environment. That was where the money was. You know, that was the bright lights. And another thing, I looked at that film and thought, where's the positive women? Even then, I was kind of noticing there was no kind of women in that. And I thought, I'm going to go to the city and I'm going to be the first trader. You know, I'm going to work in that environment. And I did. I remember telling my dad, you know, that I'd got a job in the bank, and his words were, you have to excuse his humour, Vanessa, you're the first one in the family to work in a bank and not rob it. Really proud of you. Needless to say, I was only there 5 months. For those of you who've read my book, you'll know why. But really, and to give you a description, not to tell you the whole story, but I stood up for what I believed in. And I'd very much been brought up like that as a kid, to kind of call bad behaviour. And nobody gave me a corporate hymn book when I turned up at work that said there's certain things you can't say. Or, you know, you have to bite your lip. Tact wasn't really something I graduated with. However, I did learn it as I went up the ladder, so I left that job after 5 months. They didn't exactly get rid of me, they just offered me a position 150 miles away. And I kind of went off, and I went to an IT company, and I worked there as a receptionist. And I've always been one to kind of seek opportunity. And that was another thing my nan and my mum told me. You know, grab everything that you can. Who knows where it may lead you, where the path may go. And I went to work as a receptionist, and behind me was a training department. And I always used to offer to help with them, you know, or want to find some manuals, or is there anything I could be doing. And about 2 months into like offering up my help, they offered me a part-time administrator job, so I took it. And about a month after that, my boss went on long-term sick, and the two MDs said to me, do you know what, you can continue running this department, bearing in mind I was just 18. And then when my boss was due back after about 3 months, they said, do you know what, we might not have her back, you can continue running this department. And I remember thinking, this doesn't sit right with me. My own ethics and value systems said getting ahead as a consequence of someone else's downfall wasn't kind of where I wanted to be. But I did think, however, you know, if they think I'm that good at her job, maybe I could go and get her job elsewhere. And that's exactly what I did. So I ended up working for a large publication house, and my job was, by this point, to arrange training. And again, never one to miss a trick. I was paying these trainers loads of money to come in and teach. And I said to my boss, do you know what, I think I can do that. I think I can teach that Windows 3.1. And he said to me, well, Vanessa, the valuable lessons that you'll learn in your corporate career, that as you go on, if you can save the company money, everyone's a winner. So I did, and I trained the whole company over like about a 9-month period, to the point I'd done myself out of the job. There was no training to manage, and I learned another valuable thing, that sometimes you do jobs and your job doesn't exist at the end of it. So I took redundancy money and I thought I'm going to start my own company, again full of gumption, and I did. I became a freelance trainer, and I was earning good money. I mean, even back then I think it was about £400 a day. That was big money. So I managed to put all the little things right. It wasn't necessarily mum had a better standard of living and stuff like that. But what I didn't realise is that only after a year of earning this good money, I got a letter through the door from the tax man. And I was like, what's he got with my money? I had zero business acumen at all. I hadn't done any training or anything like that, so I quickly closed the company down, and that's arduous if any of you have ever done it. And I ran back to corporate. So I was a trainer there, and still doing training, a bit of a towel between my legs, thinking, well, if ever I set up a business, there's other skills that I kind of need. And it was there, and I tell you this because, again, it tunes in with the opportunity point. When I was there, I was training, there was a really cute engineer that used to come in and fix the PCs. So, opportunity. I used to log help desk calls. To the point, it was like, Vanessa. So eventually this guy would come down, plug in the PC that he knew I'd unplugged, and he did it. And when he got to about the 6th time, he's like, is there something you want to say? And I was like, is there something you want to say to me? We've been married 15 years. One of the things I kind of learned as we went along, we both went into the same company. By now I've gone into desktop support, and I was thought it was really cool. I was a girl that could take a printer apart. What they didn't know is I always ended up with spares. Like, the printer still worked, but I had a couple of bits. So towards the end of the year, I could kind of make my own printer with all the bits I had. But I did notice that something happened. So me and my husband went in at the same level, different departments, and his career began to soar. Now, I worked under a fantastic woman, but our kind of success was judged by what came out of the printer every single night and how many hours we were there. Whereas his life was slightly different. He was off playing golf and drinking, and my husband is not a stereotypical man that kind of does that stuff. But he was going out, so he started running 2 teams, 3 teams, and he took over the whole of London. And I'm still here scratching my head. So by this particular point, and you know it's like a little bit of competition going on, he's no better than me. But by this particular point, I'd gone off and I'd had my first baby, and when I come back, being in IT, I thought, I've got to get back, because technology's going to move on. So after 3 months, I went back, and they put me in a lesser job, basically 2 rungs down in the basement. So whereby before my role was very customer facing, I was actually turning on PCs for very rich insurance executives that didn't know where that on button was. You know, that was kind of part of my routine. I was in the basement setting up user accounts. I thought, okay, if this is the way the game is played, I'll work my way back up, and I did. Now, along the way, I always kind of had a vision that I would get back into banking, because by now I'm kind of in an IT company. And when I went back the second time, after my second daughter, we'd been outsourced to the big IT company and they'd won a banking contract. So I was like, right, I'm going off there, kind of thing. I'm going to do 9 months there and then I'll work in a real bank. And again, that's exactly what I did. So I went to one of the big US investment banks. And it was there that I started to kind of soar in terms of my career, but it's there I learned my most valuable lessons. So I was part of the leadership team, a fantastic group of men, but their challenges were different than mine. I was very young as a leader, and I wasn't quite sure. We were merging with another company, And there was all of the jostling positions and the elbowing, you know, the pluming of feathers that goes on when two organisations are merging. And I thought, is this the gold that I'm watching, you know, or should I be horrified? And I think where I was kind of early 30s, I thought, this is the gold. I'm going to become one of them. And I literally look at, and I could show you some photos by my slide deck. I've got pinstripe suits on a waistcoat, my hair's scooped back, and I was a ball breaker. I was one of them women that I look back at and go, oh my God, you know, and I lost my kind of true self because I was trying to emulate a behaviour that naturally wasn't mine. And it got to a point, you know, when we done that merger, I worked about 43 days solid, and I didn't see my kids, and that lovely man that I married, you know, had kind of had enough of me. And it was at that pinnacle moment that I rang up and I said, I can't come home, we're testing with Hong Kong, I need to be here all night. And he's like, well, Vanessa, to be honest, don't come home to the girl that I married because I just don't recognise who you are anymore. And what I've allowed to happen is I've kind of been absorbed by my work ethic and absorbed, but you imagine putting a very ambitious girl in that environment. I was like fighting, you know, because I wanted to be that only female leader. And bear in mind, there were no role models. There were no women around. You know, I was the only one. So there's a lot of pressure when you're in that kind of environment. So I decided at that particular point it was a toxic environment, and the only way that I was going to survive is to remove myself from it. And I went to lunch with a friend of mine, I said, I've got to get out. I've got to be around women. You know, I've got to learn how to let my hair down a little bit. And I need to learn new things. And she said, well, why don't you go to the women's networks? And I'm like, I'm not going to one of them. They burn effigies of men and I like my bras. I would not do anyone. And also, I've got a network. You know what? You know, I got work done by who I could see on my floor under my job title. I didn't have to put effort in. No stakeholder management there. I managed up, you know. And I remember the first networking event that I went to. I literally walked in, put my coat down, got my glass, put my glass down, got my coat, and I went. And it was this moaning to my husband, and I said, if only there was kind of, there's all these networks across the city, and I don't have time to kind of look them all up. If only there was one website for me, and he said, well, why don't you create one on your journey of networking, discovering all these networks? And there must be other women that feel like you. Why don't we create a portal? And that's exactly where We Are the City started. Very much a hobby on the side of my desk, built to help other women kind of who felt in the same position as me, who've managed kids, you know, who felt the need to kind of seek the advice of other women. So I built up that website alongside of my husband, and actually I'll tell you the quick story. So I got back to my desk, we had this great idea, you know, over a bottle of wine we can solve the world. And it was on the Monday, and Stuart sent me an email, he's like, I bought you a present. Now you have to bear in mind, my boy's in IT, so I don't get flowers or chocolates. I've got a website to manage. And he's like, let's do something about it. It's very blue and very boxy. Well, that website today is, some of you know, it's huge. We get about 5 million pages viewed, 210,000 women tune into it. So it's a lot more than a hobby now. It's actually my day job. But as a consequence of building that, it started to accelerate my own career in the corporate world. And I started to learn something. I'd always had this myth that women don't help other women, because all the senior women that I'd always seen had sealed the hatch or pulled up the ladder behind them. And I started to realise actually there's women out there, for example, like Simone and where we are now, you know, that do this voluntarily off the love of their heart, you know, to help other women. And I thought, I want to share that message, I want to get that out there. And it accelerated, and I got to the point where in my own career I was headhunted for a very senior role. And even when I took it, I knew I shouldn't have taken it, because by now I'm very much working with women, I'm very much working in schools and charities, and I've become, that is the essence of me than the girl that skipped through the corporate door like I used to. And it was that, and I took the job, and I remember walking in the building, big building, and it was the C-suite job that I've always wanted. And I remember going up in that lift, and there was a voice saying to me, you don't belong here anymore. You know, it's not your purpose, it's not what it's supposed to be. So just to culminate, there's things that I've learned along the way. So I left the corporate world in June this year, and I reintroduced myself to my kids. I was like, hi, I'm your mum. They're like, oh, we thought you were from Nelly. I've never had a nanny. Not that I'm, you know, nothing against them. It's been a real kind of eye-opener for me, because, you know, I'm the one who fixes the printer. You know, I've still got the help desk number, but he's miles away. And it's made me kind of reflect on what have I learned along the way. So this is kind of where I'm going to summarise. I've learned that I discovered the value of mentors far too late in my career. I also learned that I didn't ask because I had this assumption that everyone thought I knew everything, and to ask would be deemed as failure. I also know that networking is key, but more importantly, it's the following up that you do afterwards. It's how you maintain the relationships. So you can meet people here, and if you walk out the door, that's a missed opportunity. You know, you've got tools like LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is that you need to be connected and stay connected. You never know where people pop up. I also truly believe that giving back is a fundamental part of your career. So call it paying it forward, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to deem to call it, putting your arms around the next generation, which was a point that was made earlier on. Go into your schools, you know, tell your stories. Just the fact that you walk into a building like some of you do is incentive enough for a kid, perhaps who grew up where I used to come from, to think, do you know what, I could do that as well. So there's lots of things I've also learned, hence the title of the talk, that, you know, there will be people that will derail you and people that don't get your ideas. You know, when I decided to set up We Are the City, someone said to me, my best friend, I rang her up, well, I'm so excited. You know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And at the end of it, she went, don't get it. What do you mean? You don't get it, you're supposed to get everything, you're my best friend. And that conversation went on, and if only, you know, don't get me wrong, I think you know, I didn't listen. Also, I didn't listen to one of the bosses that told me I couldn't add up. There was one, and I've never had it in investment banking, that's another. And the best one was the one who told me that I couldn't write. So I had great pleasure sending him a copy of my book this year. The foreword. He's actually a lovely fellow. So I understand that my time's coming out, and again, I'd be happy to talk to you out there, but I've learned a lot of things. But the biggest thing is to be true to yourself. You know, your authentic self is the most beautiful thing that you can kind of celebrate. I'm just going to finish by reading you a book. Now, some people's authors, I've not read the name of Leaning, because when you write a book, you're embargoed from reading anyone else's book, so I still haven't read it yet. Malcolm Gladwell I'm a fan of, but I'm a massive fan of this fella, Dr. Seuss. So I'm not going to read you the whole book, but it is in fact one of the most inspirational books, and I read it to my kids. So this is what I'm going to leave you with. My mantra to you. Congratulations. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. You have brains in your head and feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know where to go. You're the girls who decide what you know. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're way too smart to go down that not-so-good street. And if bad things happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along, you'll start happening too. You'll be on your way up, you'll see great sights, you'll join the high flyers, and you'll soar to the heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang, and you'll soon take the lead. And wherever you fly, you'll be the best of the best. Because wherever you go, you will topple the rest.